Modern psychology has a history of just over 130 years. The defining moment for the science of psychology dates back to the creation of the first psychology research lab by Wilhelm Wundt in 1879 in Leipzig, Germany. Despite this modern history, since the beginning of time, humans have required reassurance, advice, and support. This support was often available via churches and religious leaders, doctors, philosophers, and family. The term psychotherapy has ancient Greek origins, and it comes from the combination of two words, the first meaning breath, spirit, and soul, the second meaning healing and medical treatment. Psychotherapy is often interchangeable with the term counseling psychology, and it was originally understood to mean hypnotherapy. Numerous definitions exist for the word today, but the general idea is that it represents a safe environment where a client and therapist work through a client's issues together and form a therapeutic relationship over time. The history of counseling psychology is both extensive and continuously changing. Counseling psychology draws from numerous psychological disciplines to incorporate a holistic approach to well-being. The beginning of psychotherapy and counseling psychology is often attributed to the neurologist Sigmund Freud, as he is sourced as one of the first people to use the talking cure, which happened in the late 1800s. Freud developed psychoanalysis and focused on the psyche when he was unable to find physical symptoms for presenting problems with his patients. Although most of his theories have been disproved today, many of his practices and ideas remain in use. Leitner Whitmer, who studied with William Wundt, is often called the founder of clinical psychology. He was the head of the psychology department at the University of Pennsylvania, where he opened the first psychological clinic in 1896, after helping a young boy who had issues with spelling. This first psychology clinic was dedicated to children with learning disabilities, and although there was growth in the field, it was very slow. In 1907, Whitmer defined the term clinical psychology as the study of individuals by observation or experimentation with the intention of promoting change, and he founded the first clinical psychology journal called the Psychological Clinic. Whitmer provided a foundation for clinical psychology, but the substantial growth began after World War II, as until then the focus was on assessment. In 1914, there was just 26 clinics of a similar nature in the United States. The effect of war on the growth of psychology in general was essential. During the First World War, clinical psychologists were known for their assessment skills for Army recruits, but the rapid development of clinical psychology began during World War II, which is said to be the largest World War to date. The abundant need for clinical and counseling psychologists was especially evident due to the shortage of doctors, neurologists, and psychiatrists who were all occupied with the physical ailments of the returning soldiers. Psychotherapy and counseling was necessary to help deal with the soldiers who came home from war with conditions such as shell shock, which was eventually further defined as post-traumatic stress disorder, with anxiety issues, issues of reintegration into society, and many other issues of mental wellness. The stress on society of the returning soldiers was so intense and the need for clinical psychology was so extreme that after World War II ended, the Veterans Administration in the United States began to invest in clinical programs that included psychotherapy. Because of this effort, in the United States alone, there was an increase from no formal programs at schools in 1946 to over half of all PhDs in psychology in 1950 being in clinical psychology. The Veterans Administration also created a specialty with counseling psychology, which was shortly after added to the APA and considered a formal specialty. During World War II, the National Council of Women Psychologists was founded. These women wanted to help other women with the issues of family life after a war. Throughout history and today, there seems to be a lot of overlap in the fields of medicine, neurology, psychiatry, clinical, and counseling psychology. The main differences between clinical and counseling psychology are the client as well as the issues that are presented within the treatment. Clinical psychology now has more focus on mental illness and life impairment, whereas counseling psychology often focuses on everyday life situations and particular problems that are hindering growth in an individual's life. Counseling psychology also deals with many of the same issues that clinical psychology does as a whole, but without many of the research, teaching, and administrative duties. Due to the grand amount of individual differences in life experiences between people, there are numerous different psychotherapy schools of thought which are often attributed to several different theorists from the modern history of psychology. Many therapeutic relationships draw on many types of psychotherapy and adjust as needed based on the individual they are helping. As with all things, and especially rapidly progressing fields, there are always people and groups that are in opposition. The anti-psychiatry and anti-psychotherapy movements started in the 1960s by psychiatrists who did not believe in how the system was operating. Questions were raised if psychotherapy and psychiatry did more harm than good, and if it was even worth it to see such professionals, as they were often just called expensive friends. The amount of subcategories within psychotherapy provided issues for the amount of evidence for which schools of thought work best in treatment of particular issues, and a main argument of the anti-psychotherapy movement was that the individuals trained to offer such services were not equipped to deal with the issues as well as expected, and were not actually experts at all. Many people saw the psychiatry and psychotherapy fields as nothing but money-making schemes to help keep people in society oppressed. As an ever-expanding field that has gone through many changes within the last century, it is quite evident that psychotherapy is an adaptive subject matter. This has made it possible for numerous subcategories within counseling psychology to form, which all have their own focus and techniques on bringing about change within the therapeutic relationship.